John, can you get Luca? It's taking a long time.
He knows.
No, it's taking a long time to get in.
Yeah, well, you know.
Okay,
Laura Betty knows.
Yeah, I'm not in.
okay. Jim, it took me a while to get in before it hit me. I got in.
Do you want to start?
Why did you start anyhow?
I'm not in either.
What?
I'm not in either.
Just be patient.
Says cannot open page.
Go through the first few issues.
Yeah.
Would everyone please rise for the presentation of the colors? Wheeling Police Department's Honor Guard.
Honor Guard. Okay. Look. Forward. March. Close. Close. Present. Arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Left. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you. Please be seated. Are we in? Is it on?
Okay.
Okay.
Should I do roll call?
Sorry, we were having technical difficulties. Roll call, please. Clerk Simpson.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Papantos?
Present.
Trustee Vito?
Here.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Krueger?
Present.
Trustee Rufato?
Here.
President Horker?
Here. You have before you the regular minutes of the meeting of July 20th, 2020. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Second. Motion, Trustee Papantos. Second, Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Spondilla. Some of you may have noticed that we do not regularly have the honor guard. What?
President Horker, could you tell me who did one and who voted first and who did second on the minutes? This isn't working.
Papantos motioned.
And Jim.
And Lang did second?
Lang.
Okay,
second.
thank you. It's, trustees, it's not working at all.
I'll keep.
Okay. I'll take it by hand. Okay, go ahead.
There we go. Some of you may realize that we do not always have the honor guard presenting the colors. That's because we have it tonight because it's a very special evening. This evening we're going to be recognizing Officer Angela Kaehler for as an Award of Valor recipient.
On July 10th, 2020, Officer Angela Kaehler was on a patrol in the Whippletree Village subdivision when she observed a large plume of smoke coming from the garage at 16 Brougham Drive. Officer Kaehler went to investigate and observed a young boy run out of the attached mobile home yelling for help. Officer Kaehler notified dispatch that the residence was on fire and then followed the boy back into the now fully engulfed home as he attempted to save the family dog. Officer Kaehler put herself at great risk, to prevent the child from re-entering his burning residence. As Kaehler escorted him out, they became trapped by a locked gate on the deck of the dwelling. Officer Kaehler had to physically restrain the boy in order to keep him safe due to his continuing efforts to re-enter while she negotiated the lock and ultimately led him to safety. While awaiting assistance, Officer Kaehler secured the area and ensured that the neighboring units were evacuated. 2 adjacent homes, 15 and 17 Brougham Drive, also caught on fire prior to the arrival of the fire department. Fortunately, all residents were accounted for and no one was injured. In all, 11 fire departments from the surrounding agencies responded in mutual assistance to extinguish the fires. Further investigation revealed the fire was accidentally started in the garage, and after examination of the pertinent facts and evidence, Chief Michael McGreal of the Wheeling Fire Department submitted a letter nominating Officer Kaehler for the award of Valor. In that, Officer Kaehler, while conscious of the danger and great risk of imminent personal hazard to life, acted in a manner that went above and beyond the call of duty to prevent another person from sustaining serious injury or death. Therefore, Officer Kaehler is recognized for her valor as an outstanding member and valuable asset to the Village of Wheeling's Police Department, as well as the citizens she serves. Officer Kaehler. Can you hear me? We truly are honored to have officers of your caliber in our department. This is a token of esteem for the valor that you have acted on, and the caliber of service that you exhibit for our town and our residents. Thank you so much. Would you like to say anything? Thank you. Please.
Thank you.
No, I mean, please.
I appreciate the recognition. It means a lot. I didn't expect this. Any one of us would have done what I did, and I appreciate the recognition.
Oh, no problem. Would you like to introduce your family?
Yes.
I have my mom, Joanna, my brother, Vinny, my dad, Stanley, and my sister, Melissa, in the back.
And then Tony and his family are here, and they'd like to present you with something.
This goes with that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'd just like to join President Horker, the Board of Trustees, the Fire and Police Commission, and the residents, and my brothers in blue and sisters in blue and fire that's for you, Angela, right now, the fire department, by the way. We are trying to keep the limit how many people in the room, so they're just out there whooping it up for you. But on behalf of every member of your brothers and sisters in the police department, thank you, congratulations, and you're the best. Thank you.
Clerk Simpson, citizens' comments.
As Members of the public may address the board with comments regarding issues relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign their request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Ms. Wilson?
And just as a reminder, this is a time for citizens to make their comments and express their concerns and for the board to listen. Neither the board nor staff will answer questions.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Wilson, and for several years now I've been advocating for willing taxpayers and encouraging you to get the most bang for our buck out of our village manager and our expectations of him. Recently he was quoted in the newspaper as there was a local restaurant that closed, and he said that unfortunately there was no communication about that. And he said it in such a way as if it was the restaurant's fault that the village didn't know. This was a prime example of his incompetency and his lack of high expectations for his department heads beneath him. One thing that I noted in the newspaper, there's some neighboring towns had, the Chamber of Commerce had talked about, they were aware of how many businesses were in town and the licenses. I wasn't able to get that from our Chamber of Commerce. The communication with the economic developer is not there. Several months ago, many months ago, I made a FOIA request to a nearby municipality after reading that our economic developer had done work for them and obtained, I think it was a $25,000 or $35,000 contract for a market analysis, something for retail in that town. And it occurred to me that, you know, how does he have time to do that when he should be, in my opinion, giving all his time to Wheeling? And so I did a FOIA request to that municipality asking for phone records, and Jim Ferrolo, as shrewd of an attorney as he is, represents that municipality as well, and buried me with literally reams of paper. Their staff had to use a dolly to get all the paper of all those phone records out, because he knew that eventually Ms. Wilson would go through line by line and find what time of day, what the timestamps were on those phone calls to see if any of the work he was doing for this nearby municipality was on Wheeling's time. About a year ago, I had come to the mic and had criticized the village manager for allowing him to have a business. I was criticized fiercely by trustee Papantos. She defended the employee, saying that, you know, he was very transparent when he was hired. And actually her criticism of me actually supports my point further. The fact that the village manager allowed this to happen, even though the man was fully disclosed that he had this side business. So he was economic developer. He didn't have time to be doing relationships with our restaurants and with all of our businesses. There was no communication. To the detriment of Wheeling taxpayers. I'm very concerned. My second issue is the wisdom of this board to spit at money being offered to us by the state and some developers. We had on Milwaukee Avenue, the state of Illinois offered $15 million in grant money to build a residential housing, affordable housing that would make it easier for our factory workers to be able to afford to live here. We have one of our largest employees, I believe it's Argus Plastics, employs several hundred people. And he has to bus, he has actually a bus he sends to Chicago to pick up his employees to drive them to work when he closed down whatever that plant was in Chicago and opened up here, because they can't afford to live here. And the fact that Mr. Clicker said, oh, you know, our new community development guy said, oh no, I'm not going to approve that. I'm not even going to let you go before the board to ask. This is grant money. You spit on $15 million from the state of Illinois to put good development on La France, that's been vacant forever. Okay, so I think if Spondilis was going to really do anything to revitalize Restaurant Row, we would have had a restaurant here in all the years. It's empty. There's nothing else going on. 15 million they're laying down. Then we got the 17 acres. 40 million Opus. Guy named Josh from Opus, you didn't like that because he wasn't using every single lot of land. They were going to use 40 million of their own money, not asking for TIF. I don't know any other developers that have that kind of money to lay out to develop the vacant land on Lake Cook Road. I think these decisions are really unwise. And Wheeling taxpayers, this is why your taxes are going up, and this is why we need to flip this board. So
Thank you, Ms.
I've been
Wilson.
recruiting,
5 minutes.
and I hope that you all vote for the challengers this coming election.
Find a seat, Ms. Wilson. You know the rules. Thank you. Anyone else, Clerk Simpson?
Miss Adrian Tajana? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name wrong.
Well, I'm going to take it off a little bit too, so I can speak clearly. Hi, everyone. This is my first time. A little bit nervous here, so I'm going to try to make it straight to the point. I'm here to propose change in village ordinance in regards to backyard chickens, and I know this topic has been addressed or at least considered before, and I read in the last November news that it was assigned to staff to kind of investigate, but I'm not sure what was the decision on that, and if it was made, I couldn't find that information. So, and if I can just, propose my point and lay out some points why I think it's a good idea to willing to allow the backyard chickens, especially since our neighbors in Prospect Heights and Rolling Meadows and Chicago, Evanston, Deerfield, I think they all allow chickens, of course, with some restrictions in quantities and some criteria, how they should be kept. So, and I know there are concerns about the chickens are too noisy, and they're not noisier than any other animals. They are, if you can imagine a dog barking all the time, chickens don't do it. They are pretty quiet, except, when they're getting too excited about the egg they just laid. So another concern, chickens are dirty and smelly. And again, it's not the case anymore. People invest in so much money. If you look on Facebook, those Chicago enthusiasts, chicken enthusiasts, they invest in thousands of dollars in those coops. They're building beautiful, not properties, but those runs, coops for chickens. So it's a lot of money invested, and people do upkeep their chickens, and it's very actually, pleasing to observe chickens and their homes. And, another concern, she can attract animals, wild animals, and again, with proper care, enclosed run, fence, it's not an issue at all. It's animals not going to come somewhere where they cannot get food or they're going to get actually caught. So I wanted to propose maybe to allow backyard chickens and have some restrictions imposed, such as a limited amount of chickens depending on the size of the property. For example, we live in that enclave on Schoenbeck Road in Jackson, and we have 1 acre lots, so they're pretty huge. So maybe in our case, we can be allowed like 6 chickens instead of 2. And also, only single house dwellings can have chickens because there's no way townhomes or condos can obviously have chickens. And also a minimum requirement for a lot size should be assigned, for example, like a half an acre to have chickens. The coop should be away from any kind of neighbor's dwellings, and it has to be all enclosed. There's fenced yards, so chickens could be kept inside. And maybe an annual license fee, such as for dogs or cats, should be should be imposed. And obviously, we all know the benefits of the fresh eggs. In the morning when you go and get that warm egg and cook a breakfast for your kids. And to be honest, we do in our property, our neighbors had chickens, and we inherited coops when we bought the house, so I was not aware that we are not even allowed to have chickens. I was under the impression that it was allowed until someone told us. So during this hard time, COVID times, chickens obviously kept my, honestly, sanity together because we were, enjoying chickens outside with our kids, taking care of them, just watching them. Like people enjoy bird watching, chickens have the same soothing effect, what they do, and just look at them is just pleasing to me. So, and obviously educational also educational value for kids, because at least you can show your kids how the food is made, because nowadays kids are not taught that at school. They don't know how the eggs are made. They think they come from Walmart. So at the end, I just wanted to request the board just to consider it, and maybe, I don't know if it was ever considered, if you can just provide me that answer, or if there was a voting on it done, or maybe I would allow on a temporary trial basis for like some neighborhoods do it, not neighborhoods, villages do it for like a 1-year license or something. So just to see how it's gonna go. So that's my request, and I'm not sure where I go from here to.
Very good, Ms. Tatiana. If anybody is interested, they have the opportunity to bring it up at the end of the meeting during official communications.
Okay.
And thank you for staying within your time.
Thank you so much for listening.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Good evening. I've been up here probably last year. I have concerns and comments about the village and the direction that we are going. I mean, within the last 2 years, Restaurant Row has shrunk. I've talked to people before. The neighborhood, I don't know about the rest of the town, but my neighborhood up there, it looks terrible. People don't take care of their properties, their houses. The 6 flats, granted, there's no problems with them, we haven't any trouble with them, but a lot of them look like hell. They don't cut the grass, there's garbage all over. They put satellite dishes where they feel like they got cables running across the face of the building. Garbage just piles up in the yards. I mean, it's really looking bad. And I'm afraid that the village isn't, either they're not aware of it or the manpower or whatever, but we need to concentrate on the way the houses, the people we represent Wheeling. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I grew up in, in Morton Grove and Niles and that, and everybody took care of their dwellings. The city was on top of it. I know for a fact there's a vacant lot on 9th Street, and I call every year around the beginning of June because the grass is like 2 foot high, because it's a vacant lot. They don't care about it unless somebody calls and complains. The village, I don't know, maybe they're not aware of it, but maybe instead of just calling these people, we need to start citing them, because money talks. If they got to put money out to take care of their property, then they'll do it before. And being in construction, I've done quite a few stores and restaurants in this village, and I know that to get the permit, the occupancy permit, everything's got to be pristine. I remember I was at a meeting last year when that coffee shop on Hintz Road, and everybody was worried about the guy's bushes and that. But if you take a look, on Milwaukee Avenue, just north of Dundee, the strip mall that Bill Hine did. They got all those pavers out there. There's weeds growing on them that got to be like 6 inches tall. Now people are coming down Milwaukee Avenue into Restaurant Row, and this is what they see. The village really needs to start taking a look at the neighborhoods. I mean, I understand, that costs money. I guess community development isn't that big. I've called quite a few times on the way some houses look. I mean, there's 2 in particular on 6th Street. Finally, there was something happening there today. The police were there, the fire department, and everything else. Their backyard, the trees in there got to be at least 15, 20 feet high. How could the village not see that? How could they let that go? And that's, I mean, I could take you people for a tour from Wolf Road to Northgate and up and down Strong and all the other streets and just show you all these different houses. And some of my neighbors, there's three of them within a couple blocks of me. They're all in the Wheeling Garden Club, try and spruce up the place. And even they're wondering what's going on. For every day, I feel, for every day that the village doesn't do anything about cleaning up these neighborhoods, these households, the 6 flats, the businesses, it's a slap in the face to the people who do. And, as far our taxes are going higher, but our property values aren't going as high as the taxes, I believe. Not that I'm going anywhere. I've been in Wheeling for a little over 40 years. I like Wheeling. I'm pro-Wheeling. I help wherever I can. But this is just, it's getting disgraced. I mean, right across the street, I mean, you can't see it now, but right across the street towards the tail end, closer to Northgate, there's one tree there. There's got to be 2 cases of empty beer bottles that have been sitting there for at least a year. There's a sign where this new healthcare place is, sign that says, "Do not block intersection." It's been laying there for a good 4 or 5 months. I mean, think about it. How many Village vehicles are out on the road each day between streets and sands, building department, forestry, police, fire. Remember that old saying, see something, say something? Can't we get the village personnel, if they see something that's not right on the street, contact the proper department and fix it? I mean, I'm just asking. I've been in construction 40 years. I mean, I was thinking about this building today. It had to take over 40 different trades to put this building up. It's a beautiful building. They all work together. Why is it this village can't work together and make village so beautiful? I mean, just 4 or 5 years ago, we were talking about Wheeling was the new North Shore. Where is it? I mean, our restaurant row was shrinking. And this was before the virus, the COVID virus, with the Ram restaurant, Claim Jumpers, this little Chinese place we used to get food from all the time. All these places are closing. Why? I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's houses in my area, they take all the stuff out of their garage and they just put it in the backyard. There's 2 houses back there. Cars have been sitting in the backyards for at least 5 years. Nobody sees this? I don't know, they're over here on 6th Street. The car's been sitting there for 7, 8 years at the bottom of the driveway. It's still sitting there.
Time, Mr. Zimmerman.
Just want the village to be aware and they should do something. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Clerk Simpson, anyone else? There are no staff reports. Consent agenda. Clerk Simpson.
Okay, consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution waiving competitive bids and authorizing the purchase of 20 Dell Latitude 5420 mobile data terminals at a cost not to exceed $59,427. Item 11B, resolution waiving competitive bidding requirements and authorizing the purchase of AeroCAD portable sanitizer equipment for a price not to exceed $31,486. Item 11C, resolution authorizing the village manager to execute an agreement for executive recruitment services with GOVHR USA in an amount not to exceed $17,500. Item 11D, resolution approving FY 2020 final renewal contract with Holiday Creations Pro for installation, maintenance, and removal of holiday lights in an amount not to exceed $40,313.05. Item 11E, resolution granting tentative acceptance of public and private improvements within the Wolf Road Industrial Subdivision. Item 11F, resolution accepting a bid and approving a contract in the amount of $51,300 with the YMI Group Incorporated for the 2020 HVAC unit replacement at Station 24. Item 11G, resolution accepting a bid and approving a contract in the amount of $72,725 with the YMI Group Incorporated for the 2020 HVAC unit replacement program. Item 11H, resolution authorizing the execution of a Fourth Amendment to the service agreement between the Village of Wheeling and Andy Frayne Services Incorporated for crossing guard services.
Do we have any questions or comments? If not, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
We'll give the motion to Trustee Papantos and the second to, was that Trustee Rufato? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, that brings us to new business.
13A, ordinance granting a variation from Title 19 zoning to permit a 6-foot tall opaque fence within the front yard setback area at 916 Honeysuckle Drive, docket number 2020-15.
Mr. Clicker, what do we have?
Yes, we have, as in the title said, residents at the corner of Honeysuckle and Willowbrook, so 916 Honeysuckle Drive. They have a current 4-foot high fence they would like to replace with a 6-foot high fence. As you can see in the photo there, that's the existing fence. However, the new fence will be 16 feet from the coming out from the house, so 9 foot off of the property line. It will be 6 foot tall and was unanimously recommended for approval.
Questions or comments from the board? None? None? If there are no questions or comments, we need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos, second.
Second.
Trustee Rufato, roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes.
13B, resolution waiving competitive bidding and directing the village president to execute an amendment to the agreement between the Village of Wheeling and WB Olson Incorporated, authorizing guaranteed maximum price for construction management general contractor services for the construction of Fire Station 23 in an amount not to exceed $4,975,457.
You want it?
Yes, please.
We've been talking about this for a long time. Mr. Spondilis?
We have, thank you. I have the pleasure of introducing the fire chief, but before doing so, just a quick overview. This evening's presentation of the guaranteed maximum price, which we will refer to as a GMP, is the culmination, as President Horker said, of several years of effort. A number of years ago, staff took a hard look at Station 23, which is 42 years old, if I'm correct, and the number of issues that the building was suffering. And when I say that, I'm speaking of larger infrastructure issues. There are roof concerns, the generator needs replacement, the HVAC units need replacement, there's major apron and garage floor issues, asbestos abatement and repair of the flooring and piping. These are all expensive concerns. So when we did that deep dive, we came out with approximately $600,000 worth of repairs. That is separate and apart from the fact that, again, you've got a 42-year-old building and a building that really doesn't meet the standards for a modern fire station. At that time, we presented to the board the idea of considering a rebuild. If you were to consider what the department needed, which is basically additional garage space to protect the equipment, it was coming close to a $2 million project just to do the repairs and the minor building alterations to bring it into a quasi-modern building. The board at that time decided, I believe appropriately so, that it made sense to start over. We own the land. We had an opportunity to design this building, which we also took as an opportunity looking to the future to design our third fire station, which we've been talking about for about 15 years. We contracted with an architect who designed a single building that could be duplicated in both locations, saving substantial money for when we eventually do the second, the second new building, which would be Station 42. So at that time, we began diverting money, specifically earmarking it into the capital improvement program for a new building construction. Since that time, 2 years ago, we have been aggressively saving, putting in surplus money, and dedicating significant capital resources in order to come to you tonight saying that we have cash to pay for this building. So there will be no bonding required to pay for this. That is a significant feat. It is rare that a municipality is able to pay cash for a new building. We certainly recognize that the timing isn't great. There are certainly very real concerns in the world and in our local economy, but we believe that, again, this capital investment in public safety is absolutely worth it when you weigh the expense of the immediate repairs that are needed in order to continue occupying the building and the services that the department provides. It makes sense for us to follow through with our 2-year plan and approve the GMP this evening. Certainly, the finance director is here and can answer any questions, but the fire chief is going to walk through the building. If we could just get through the presentation and then deal with all the questions at the end, I think that would be the easiest. So, Chief McGreal, if you would.
Thank you, Manager Spondilis. Just to jog our memories, because this project's been going on for 2 years, I just want to do a brief recap of how we got where we're at today. Remember, the plan is to demolish the 40-year-old existing 6,000 square foot fire station and replace it with a new 11,000 square foot turnkey facility on the same site. The rendering, I think you all should have the 2 renderings of the station. So in February 2019, staff issued a request for qualifications to 16 well-respected regional architects and commercial builders. The proposals were opened in late March 2019, and 3 design-build teams were selected for further consideration by a committee of village staff members. Interviews and presentations took place in late May and in early June 2019, which resulted in a recommendation by village staff to utilize the architectural services of 845 Design Group. In mid-January 2020, the project went before the Plan Commission, and the village board granted variations and major site plan appearance and special use approval on February 3rd. On March 2nd, 2020, the village board approved a contract and associated agreements with W.B. Olson to serve as both the general contractor and the construction manager for the project. W.B. Olson built the building we're standing in now. With the assistance of 845 Design Group and W.B. Olson, staff worked with mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors, and engineers to develop the scope of work and the guaranteed maximum price, which we brought before you today, which is just under $5 million. Staff and Olson held a subcontractor trade package sealed bid opening on July 30th, 2020. We did it virtual because of COVID. Over 100 bids were submitted for the various trades, including demolition, concrete, roofing, etc. Now that's what I was told is a fantastic turnaround. If you had 100 subcontractors bidding on a public project like this, these people want to go to work, they need to go to work. So we felt that competition was helpful in our favor for the price. Now, W.B. Olson vetted the lowest bidders for each trade and has provided the village with a guaranteed maximum price of an amount not to exceed $4,975,457. Staff recommends that the village board approve the GMP contract amendment with Olson and proceed with the demolition and construction of Fire Station 23. The fire department plans to vacate the existing Station 23 either the last week of August or the first week of September, and move emergency operations to the Mutual Aid Box Alarm Readiness Center located at 233 West Hintz Road, former Public Works Building. Over the last 9 months, we've been working with Mavis on, running out of a fire station, there's a lot of things that need to be put in there as far as dispatch, as far as radio, housing for the crews, garage big enough for apparatus. And Mavis is kind enough to let us set us up there, and spent quite a bit of time and money getting it ready. We were supposed to move in somewhere around April or May, but again, because of just COVID and the climate, that's been pushed. Once the station has been vacated, the building will be turned over to Public Works and Information Technology departments to salvage equipment. Station will then undergo asbestos removal. I'm trying to get it for the week of the 7th or the week of the 14th because they can't demolish the building until the asbestos is remediated. And then we're slated for the demolition to occur September 21st. And the construction is anticipated to take approximately a year. So we have a very tight schedule, and we are on the starting line with this project. The group has been working on making it ready so we can be out of there in 2 or 3 days. We work with Public Works, IT. This is quite an undertaking, and I appreciate you. Else, I'd like to introduce the construction manager. I didn't know he snuck up behind me. It's John Emser from W.B. Olson. He's also here to answer any questions. He's my new stepbrother. We've been working a lot together.
COVID. If that's the end of the presentation, we do have a few trustees who want to make some comments. Trustee Papp, Trustee Vogel, and Trustee Rufato. Trustee Papantos, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Chief McGreal, because this has been a long-term project. I don't know of any municipality that has $5 million to lay out for a fire station. And it was a lot of work to get there, and it was a lot of planning and patience on your part and your predecessor's part, and basically our firemen who've been living that way. It's true that right now, if we had a female fireman, there's no place there for her to stay, right?
Right.
And I mean, the fact that the building was built 42 years ago and has asbestos does bother me. I feel bad for the guys working there. I know it's safe and that you check, but at the same point, we have to move forward. I know of no prices that decrease over time. If we say we're in the midst of a pandemic, we can't go forward, let's wait a year, our 5 million is not going to be 5 million anymore. It's useless. That money was earmarked for this project. We can go forward. This is the only station we have on the west side of the tracks. I think the award that we just gave this evening to Officer Kaehler shows that we need a station on the west side of the tracks. We need a station that is usable. You guys have fought the battle of flooding on the streets and everything else down there to get there. And we have a really good deal with Mavis right now for a place to stay while we're building. How long will that last? Do we know if that's going to be available in a year?
It's not a blank check. I can't tell you for sure that we'd be invited or they would extend an invitation. In dealing with Glen Erickson, they've been great neighbors, but it's changed. They're very busy with COVID. They're very busy with the social unrest. They monitor all the Chicago doings. Their EOC is the room next to where we'll be bunking, and they've also dealing with hurricanes and floods.
I'm sorry, EOC?
The Emergency Operations Center.
Thank you.
And so again, I can't tell you yes or no, but I think if they knew then what they know now, it may not be invited.
And the fact that, as you said, there were so many contractors willing to bid, it's a deal that I can't pass up right now. So thank you for working on this and not giving up on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Vogel, then Trustee Rufato.
First of all, Chief, thank you, and thank Chief McIsaac for all your work. I understand there's been a lot of work. I understand this has been a long time coming, but I don't agree 100% that this is something that's got to be done today, tomorrow, or within the next year. There's too much uncertainty financially for us. Unemployment filings in the state of Illinois as of 8/1 was 627,000 people. It also happened to be the week that the $600 federal unemployment kick in dropped off. That's $375 million less in the Illinois economy. It's $375 million less that's coming in state income tax that's going to be allocated our way, part of it. It's $375,000 less that we're going to have on sales tax purchases. We're going to start seeing more rent evictions. That also expired. I know there's money out there, but how much, how long it's going to last. They talked about what Cook County and the state of Illinois put out might last us a month. We got real estate taxes coming due in October. They delayed that 2 months because of the COVID, and I can't see us collecting 100% of that. The bars, the restaurants are still not at full capacity, and if the COVID cases increase, I'm fearful that the governor is going to close down some of those businesses again, and we're going to go worse. I guess it just, with everything that's happening and not knowing what the future holds in the next year, I can't see us taking $5 million. It may be needed. I understand it's been committed for this purpose, but may be needed for future, for something else. I would rather make sure that all the employees here are taken care of. They're all still on staff. We don't have to, commit to layoffs a year from now because we're out of money. And I guess the biggest question is, if we delay this for a year, 18 months, is it going to affect the quantity or quality of our services? Can anybody answer that? I mean, will it, or, if you're telling me absolutely 100% it's going to affect the quality and quantity of our services, then I'll rethink my idea. But I personally am grateful and overjoyed on the great job that everyone's done. And I ask them to be patient and hang in there for a little while longer. This has got to come to an end sooner or later, and when it does, and the economy opens back up, and things are better, move into this quickly. That's just my one opinion.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Good question. Want to address it now, or?
The quality of service question?
I can't see that it would, but somebody should say something.
I'll address that, fine. Again, that's a tough question to answer in black and white. I can assure you, we get by with anything, you know that. The group will do anything they can. They'll respond out of anything they have to. But what it is affecting is there's asbestos, there's mold. It's not outfitted to run out of. You guys were there, we had a village board meeting, it was hot, HVAC didn't work. I got guys running around in plastic suits. It will affect eventually. Will we get in and get out? Yes. But it does affect. It has an accumulative effect. Both of these stations have been put off for years and years. Does it matter another year? I can tell you what the risks are in not doing it is a financial impact because we have to address the infrastructure. I have to move the guys out to get the asbestos out. And I have to repair the flooring and do the rest. So we are moving in, so it does affect.
Does all that have to be done within a year?
Most of it, yes. We already went through the list of things that we can push off again, but the concrete's the concrete. The water, when it rains and it floods Wheeling Road, the water runs in the fire station. That concrete is pitched, the wrong way. The trucks, with that crash truck, it's hard to navigate. Can we do it? Yes. I'm not going to lie to you. And that's up to you. It's a policy decision.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Trustee Rufato, you have some questions?
Thank you. We were talking about, John, I think you mentioned, or Chief did, $600,000, was it $600,000 in repair that are needed?
Correct.
And you answered my question about that. But I know we're running in a deficit as far as income goes in our village. And I'm perhaps saying, we have a budget review in November, and we're going to pretty much know where we're going to be next year. I mean, can we, maybe not a year, but can we hold off until possibly that time to see the state of our village? I know we have this money, and I know we're in a surplus, but is it a wise thing to do right now? Now, what Chief just mentioned about the asbestos and the concrete, maybe I didn't get that before, but can we possibly wait until the end of the year when we have an idea? And come on, Michael does a great job, and he probably knows right now where we're going to be. And if we had a few more months to look at this and to evaluate where we're at, then I would feel a little bit more comfortable. And I know that not every village has $5 million cash, but is that something we should be spending on right now?
I think, may I?
Yes.
I think there are a couple answers to that. Just to be clear, the $5 million cash is because we have been very diligent in prioritizing this project and making sure that our other capital projects were also appropriately prioritized around this. So we were able to come up with this money through a number of different ways that we talk about every year. The sale of the senior center building, the surplus that you have allocated into this. So I just want to be sure that everybody understands we don't just have money coming out of our ears, and that's why we're able to do this. Because I think that's important to the point that you're making. The answer to can we do anything is yes. I think, Mr. Emser, perhaps you can address if we had to rebid in a couple of months, or if we had to rebid next year. Now, of course, you're guessing, but I mean, I think you have your finger on the pulse of the market more certainly than anyone here does. And as far as, and I'll turn it over to you in a second, as far as Director Monchain's ability to predict, you're right, we'll have more information come November. However, as Trustee Vogel said, this is an ongoing situation where November is going to turn into January, January is going to turn into spring, spring is going to turn into fall. So I think that's just a reality that we have to deal with and a policy decision that the board has to make. Now, that said, there are a number of things that I think are important here. This is capital money. It's not general fund money. So we are not in a surplus situation for this fiscal year. We will run a deficit. We will be presenting you a deficit come November. approximately $2.5 to $3 million at this point. We know that, we're aware of it. Our fund balance can handle that. Of course, the unknown is what happens if the restaurants shut down again. Yes, that's true. However, again, this is capital money. So what I would say happens then is we adjust our other capital projects that we are still planning for in order to deal with that. General fund money, capital fund money are different pots. And yes, you can transfer, but we could do this back and forth really all night. Ultimately, it's a policy decision that Michael and I, of course, spent a lot of time talking about whether this is still a good idea. And we did that 6 weeks ago before we presented the board with the contract in order to allow WB Olson the authority to go out and bid this project. And ultimately, the answer was we felt this was still the best investment for the public, considering, again, the cash on hand. The risk is low because of the cash on hand. If we were bonding, I don't think we'd be having this conversation because we'd be obligating additional debt to the village, and it would be a very different conversation. So I don't know, John, if you want to say something, or Michael, or both of you.
Well, good evening. I think one of the things that you're talking about is if you're trying to relocate the schedule and tip it to the next year, part of it to next year, one of the things that happens automatically, as you may well know, is prevailing wage increases every year. It's always increased during the pandemic, and it increases during recessions. So you're expecting to look at some kind of an increase next year, which happens on June 1st every year. So that is something that if you're going to move the schedule, or you're going to delay, you're going to pay something additional next year, as well as material prices, those things. Right now we know that materials are available. I don't know where that's going to go a year from now. So this is those are some of the unknowns that we don't know about if you are going to delay the project. We did get great turnout. We had good contractors. We have a good project. I think it attracted good bidders. We worked really hard to get the right people here to bid the project, and we've vetted the lowest bidders, and it's a good contracts. So.
And this really was part of a package too, as the board recalls. There was Station 23, there was Station 42, and there were the 6 additional personnel that we had been putting money aside. I mean, there is still an opportunity to deal with the amount of money that is being allocated and where it's being allocated in November. Right now, we're not making a move on 42 or the additional bodies. So we can still have that conversation come November, meaning, again, there's still an opportunity to reallocate funds separate and apart from this project. Michael, is there anything for you to add or that you'd like to add?
No, I think you've covered it. I would say, this is something that, as Manager Svandilas mentioned, we've talked about extensively whether or not to go forward with this project. We view the risk, that there's risk on both sides. There's risk of not doing the project for the reasons that you've heard. The prices are going to go up, and eventually the station needs to be replaced. In the short term, there's going to be costs that are going to have to be incurred to maintain the existing building, and that's, good money chasing after bad. So there's risk there. On the other hand, if the economy, if there is a second wave, then there's risk with that too, that our budget situation might be worse than what we're anticipating. As of right now, we are definitely going to run a deficit this year. If we get $800,000 in CARES Act funding, it won't be quite as bad as the number that the village manager mentioned. It might end up being between $1 and $2 million if that funding comes through. Otherwise, it could easily be $2 to $3 million. Next year, 21 is probably going to be a deficit as well, depending on how soon the economy recovers. The good news is we have very strong reserves at about 38% of annual operating expenditures. So we can weather a couple years of deficits, as we did for several years following the recession of 2008. So if we didn't have those reserves, I'd be telling you something completely different. But with those reserves, I'm a little bit more comfortable with moving forward with this project.
What's our reserve rate right now? 35%?
We're at about 38%, and we have about 15 million in reserves.
And our policy is to be 25% of.
25% is the policy, which is very typical for, it's what GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, recommends. Typically, they say the minimum is 15, but 25 is what you see for most communities.
We have, Stuart, we do have some other questions. Trustee Lang, then Kruger, and Trustee Papantos again. So Trustee Lang.
Well, that's the guy I wanted to hear from, Mr. Monteshane. So I wanted to hear what you had to say. I'm sure you weighed in heavily on this amount of money as well. You do a very good job of keeping us in check, keeping our checkbook balanced, and I appreciate your input a lot on this. And I wanted to hear what you had to say, and John already got you, so I'm covered. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Kruger, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes. First of all, a comment. I'd like to drive home what I've heard here now a number of times, and that is the price tag of this project in 2022 is not going to look like it does today, and that concerns me a great deal. But Chief McGreal, you said that Mavis is not a blank check, right?
Right.
What are they charging us for our guys to be there?
Nothing. Zero.
And if we delay, where would our guys go if Mavis took that checkbook away from us?
We went into that before Mavis was even available, and we had Plan A and Plan B. Plan A was to live in the station and build around us. So we would demolish half the building. We'd live in one of the bays. They'd build another bay. We'd move into that bay. Then they would demolish that side and move it in. So as you know, living and running a emergency services out of a construction zone is not good for our guys. It's not good for the construction works. Plus, it delays the project and it tacks on probably close to $1 million. Plan B was we have to be west of the tracks. That's why Mavis is so desirable, because of the trains. We get delayed by a train. We're all on the east side at Public Works. I would have went to Public Works in a heartbeat. But we get stuck by a train, that can add 5, 10, 20 minutes, or 5 or 10 minutes coming around trying to get our way for the train. So Plan B was to find a suitable location. We worked with community development, find a warehouse, but finding a warehouse, an open warehouse that's suitable to live in, 24/7, kitchens, bathrooms, showers. You were talking $600,000-800,000 if we could find one. So right. Yes, we looked at that. So this is a rare opportunity.
Well, when I built my house, I lived on the property, and my builder hated that because I was there every day. So thank you. Appreciate the answers.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Papantos, you had some follow-up questions?
Thank you, and this is probably more that Michael has already addressed. Most of our revenue comes from, if I correct, property taxes, not sales tax, right?
Right. Property tax is number one, and then followed by sales and income tax.
And so we really won't know where we stand as from property tax until, because of the lag in the state and the delay in payment.
Well, I'm pretty confident that we're going to receive, somewhere between 97 and 98% of our property tax levy. That, if you look at it historically, that's typically what we get. It's going to be delayed, but I've said this before, nobody likes to pay property tax, but from a municipal finance standpoint, it's the most reliable source of revenue that we have. So it does provide a lot of stability to the village budget. Sales tax this year is a real problem, as you might imagine, as is food and beverage and hotel motel and all of those things that are heavily dependent on the economy. They're going to be down, and that's why we're going to run the deficit that the manager mentioned and I mentioned. It's really not property tax per se that's driving that, though.
Right, and that's what I thought, but I also don't want to assume that in November you're going to be able to give us some magic numbers. Just knowing with the lag on the state that we're going to know everything by budget time, that what's going to come up. I really would be, and I know compared to other municipalities that do rely heavily on sales tax and food and beverage, they're crying. You know, I mean.
Yeah, it's
you know.
going to be a tough year for everybody. But you're right. You know, every month we're getting new, you know, additional sales tax information and income tax information. And income tax has not looked too bad so far. Sales tax is not great, to put it lightly. But you're right, when we get to November, this is going to be the most difficult budget, I think, from a revenue projection standpoint. Not so much on the expenditure side, because we know what our expenditures are going to be. But projecting revenue for next year is going to be really tough because we just don't know how long this economic recovery is going to take. So I'll have a better idea in November, but I won't have, you know, I won't have the exact answer for you at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Rufado.
And again, I wasn't looking at a year out. I was looking at for something short term. And I realized Trustee Papantos said that, you know, November we won't have everything, but we're going to have a better picture by November. So I'm not talking a year or 18 months. I'm talking to the beginning of the year, but that's my own opinion on this. I wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rufado. Trustee Vito.
Is our agreement with Mavis, is that a handshake deal, or do we have something in writing with them?
Handshake.
Is there a way we can lock it in and at least talk to them to say, you know, what they might do if we have a contingency plan? I mean, my fear is, you know, Michael's saying we're going to be a couple million down. You know, if that happens 2 years in a row and we just spent $5 million, I mean, where are we going to make up the money? It's going to be a property tax increase, and might as well get the pitchforks and torches ready now in this environment to do that. I mean, they're going to hang us. I don't know. I mean, how bad is the sales tax so far? Do you have any projection now, the decrease in actual dollar amount? Not like a percentage overall, but
Yeah, I think our sales tax is probably going to be down somewhere between $1 and $2 million, and that's going to be the biggest factor driving the deficit.
Yeah, I'm just a little worried about it. I don't know. I see both sides of this. As you know, obviously it's a long project, a long time in the works project, and there's a lot of good deals going with it with the Mavis situation, and overall the way that the whole thing was contracted was a good deal. But to spend $5 million in cash right now is a little unsettling. I don't know if we can maybe see what Mavis's deal is. I mean, if Mavis said you're done, you know, you come back in January, sorry, then I'd be very reluctant to shelf this now. But I don't know what their situation is, because like the chief said, getting a warehouse is going to be super expensive, and doing, you know, living in your house while the kitchen's getting rebuilt is a horrible situation for everybody involved. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence.
Director Monchain, please fill in the blanks if I'm misspeaking here, but Trustee Vito, to your point about making up the money, we wouldn't make up the money. We certainly wouldn't go back to the taxpayers for it. This is capital project money. This is not general fund money. So
I get
what we
that,
would do is take it off of future capital projects. So yes, there's a risk. There's no way of trying to say that there isn't here. But we would not be coming back looking to make up the $5 million that's expended as part of this project. Is that fair, Michael?
You're right. I think that's fair to say. We would draw down on our reserves, so we wouldn't be at 38% anymore. But we've done that in the past, and most recently during the recession between 2008 and 2010. And I will say, you know, I've said for years that I believe that we need to be doing incremental property tax increases anyway, because our costs go up every year and in a very predictable manner. But we wouldn't be asking for a property tax increase to replace the reserves that we've drawn down. We would just have less reserves, and we could look at other projects to not do. We're setting aside $500,000 a year to build the second of the 2 new fire stations. As you'll recall, we planned to do that over several years so that we could pay cash for that station as well. I would think that would probably be at the top of the list if we needed to dip into the capital projects fund to build up our reserves in the general fund. I think we would probably be recommending to put that off.
As long as there's an understanding that what I don't want to do is get into a situation where we're going to have to increase property taxes more than what your normal incremental suggestion is, because we've deficit spent way too much. And I get it, it's in the capital improvements fund. As long as there's going to be some type of understanding that, you know, if everything is completely deficited at that point, that we're going to shave from that fund to make that up and keep the incremental increases at the same level. Because I don't want to be going crazy during this time, and I don't want to have an unbalanced budget either, to where we have a deficit budget. That's the only reason I've ever voted for a property tax increase, was to keep a balanced budget, and I don't want to ever not have a balanced budget. So I mean, if there's some guarantee, and I know you can't guarantee anything, but if there's an understanding from staff that we can't go over this normal incremental increase, and that we'll have to shave from the capital improvement or the capital funds, then I guess I can be on board with that.
Well, those are the things that we did, 12 years ago. Is we delayed capital projects. We cut money from the contribution to the liability insurance fund. We didn't fully fund the SURF fund and things like that. So there are options.
So, you done?
That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Vito. So it sounds like you do have sort of a plan already in place to start. I don't want to say making up for this expense, because the money has been set aside for this. I mean, really, we would be taking it away from here. If we straying from the plan is actually more juggling the budget than going ahead with it. But it sounds like you have already, it seems like it's already been conceded that Station 42 is not going to be next year.
Yeah, correct. From a staff level, correct. Of course, the board has to make that decision at budget time, but yes, that.
I don't think that's going to be a hard decision.
I just going to go out on a limb on that one.
But the whole idea of the capital improvements projects, this is something that's generally done in business. Okay, we don't have enough money to build the new widget factory this year. We're going to save for a few more years. It's kind of standard operating business procedure to adapt to the dynamics of economics, isn't it?
Yes, and
it sounded good coming out of my mouth.
It did. Yes, I agree. And where there is the ability to delay capital projects, that's something that communities typically do in difficult times.
If I may, President Horker, we've been doing that. I mean, I hope the perception, yes, we're having this very public conversation about should we or shouldn't we, but this was not taken lightly from staff's perspective in order to get this piece of legislation here. So, of course, we've had these conversations internally, and I think it's important to know that we have a hiring freeze. We have postponed projects, a number of them. It wasn't close to $1 million, if I recall. I had previously put together a list. So we are doing those things, absolutely recognizing the fragility of the local economy. So we know that, and we did not come tonight just thinking that, hey, we've really come this far, we really should just see it through. That's not the case at all. There's a lot of thought given to whether this was the right time to do it or not. I just want to make sure that that everyone understands that this was not just an easy, let's just get it done because we've come this far.
Trustee Papantis, you have a concern?
No, I was a no.
Kruger.
I pointed the right way, though.
You did, halfway there. Manager's fund dealers, you did say that in this $4.9 million that there are things built into it that would be cost savings. And as I recall with other projects that we do, we tend to have cost savings all the time, as we're going through projects. I would imagine this project is going to be no different, correct? In looking for ways to reduce that 4.9 million?
If I may, my answer will be direction to Mr. Emser to make sure that that's the case. But yes, you are absolutely correct. The contract does include a 3% contingency, so hopefully we are never dealing with change orders. Hopefully, of course. You know the reputation of WB Olson. They did build this building. This building did come in quite significantly under budget. I have full faith in them and, more importantly, their abilities to understand a project before a shovel gets put in the ground so that we're not dealing with change orders or surprises in the field. So yes is my answer.
Thank you. Did you want to add something, sir?
Yes.
Those are two great yeses. Thank you.
Sorry, trustee, I thought he was going to say more. Thank you. Trustee Papantos.
I just also want to point out that we are not trying to build the Taj Mahal of fire stations here, correct? I mean, this is built for necessity and need. Hopefully, it's going to be environmentally as friendly as possible, just knowing what we know over the years from 42 years ago. But this isn't, king-size beds with sleep number, beds in there for the staff. We are going necessity, not luxury.
Yes, one of the things that we went through with 845 Design Group was to try to make this building as economical as possible, and that's one of the things that's built into the project. It's pretty economical.
Great, thank you.
Last chances. Trustee Vogel.
You've almost convinced me.
Give us 5 more minutes.
You're so close. You want me to keep talking?
Well, the meetings have been so short lately that we have to give the residents their money's worth. Michael, the state income tax looks good this year, but is that really due to the effect of 2019's late filings?
It's down. It's down compared to 2019, about 5%.
I guess what I'm asking is we got a big kick in July or early August. We'll get a big kick because of the delay in filing and people were
did, but the earlier months were down because of the delay as well.
But are you taking into consideration that extra money we got then instead of in April? Was there a difference between those two numbers what we budgeted? Do we budget that way?
We budget by month, and there was, there was less money coming in earlier in the year than the last month that we got.
But was that all due to the delay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe our state income tax situation is not as bad as...
It doesn't appear to be as bad as I had thought originally.
Because even with unemployment, they pay 5% income tax on that also. Okay. I just hope we're making the right decision, and I hope, again, to echo what Trustee Vito said, is that we're not looking at property tax increases above and beyond the norm because of this. And I understand that $5 million isn't another fund or whatever, but we're talking about $5 million coming out of the general fund with the deficits over the next 2 years that could easily be replaced by moving that $5 million out of the firehouse project and putting it into the general fund. That's all I'm saying. So going forward, let's get rolling.
Was that a motion?
Yes, it is.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Thank you, Trustee Lang. Clerk Simpson, roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board, for your confidence. We very much appreciate it. I'd like to just extend my gratitude towards Chief McGreal and, of course, Chief McIsaac before him, but, of course, the entire department. A lot of work was done by the department in order to not only expedite, but really do a lot of the vetting in the design process, which I think says a lot, speaks volumes really to the dedication of our staff, not just to public safety, but also to really caring and having a hand in this building. I think that goes a long way and speaks volume to their credit. So thank you to you and to the department.
I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize firefighter Brian Zerzo, who he's been working on these. He worked on Station 24 on his time off. He's drawing mock-ups. He deserves a lot of credit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Clerk Simpson.
13C.
Thank you, guys. I mean, you guys have been working on this really for years. I mean, decades they've been talking about how we need to expand and fix this. I'm really happy this is moving forward to a point where you guys will all get to see it.
But for the virus, we would have had balloons and all kinds of stuff.
Probably not. But no, Clerk Simpson, I'm sorry, thank you.
13C, ordinance providing for the issuance of approximately $5,810,000 general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2020 of the Village of Wheeling, Cook and Lake Counties of Illinois for the purpose of refunding certain outstanding bonds of said village, providing for the levy and collection of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on said bonds, authorizing the execution of an escrow agreement in connection with the issue of said bonds, and authorizing the sale of said bonds to the purchaser thereof.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson. Mr. Monstein, yes, Mr. Monstein.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the board is aware, for the past few months, the village has been working with its financial advisor, Spear Financial, in an attempt to refund 3 of the existing general obligation bond issues that we have out there, the 2011, 2012A, and 2012B. As everyone's aware, interest rates have been very low. When we started this process, we expected that we would be able to achieve present value savings of approximately $200,000. That turned out this morning to be a low estimate. The auction was held this morning, and the winning bid was for an interest rate of 0.95%. So if you can imagine, that's less than 1% on some bonds that won't mature for 12 years, which is just incredible. So instead of $200,000 in present value savings, the actual number was $464,000. A result, obviously, that was much better than anyone expected. So that's the bond ordinance that's before you tonight. And I asked Mark Geratina from Spear Financial to come to the meeting tonight and answer any specific questions you might have about the process. But with that, I'd open it up for questions.
Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Director Mondeshain, because I don't know how, but you actually make most of this very understandable. And that's a miracle. I can't remember the last finance class was quite a few years ago, so my memory has been shot. What do we do with the savings? I mean, we just talked about deficits for the general fund, and we're going to save roughly, well, $400,000.
Right. So the answer is most of the savings, unfortunately, doesn't accrue to the general fund because the debt service on these bonds were being paid out of the Capital Projects Fund, the Lake Cook TIF, and the Water and Sewer Fund. So those funds will see debt service expenditures go down in the future, which is a good thing, and that means that there'll be additional money available for water and sewer projects, capital projects, and TIF projects. There's a little bit of savings in the general fund, but not a whole lot.
Thank you.
Trustee Lang?
Mr. Monshane, just a quick one. Is there still bonding on, obviously you looked at all the opportunities to convert the bonds and get better rates. Is there still bonding on this particular building as well?
There is. We issued between 2007 and 2009, there were 3 bond issues related to this building, and then the Public Works building and the police department, and also a fire station. So we've been paying those bonds off for a number of years. Those are not bonds that we can presently refund, though, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. And are we in pretty good shape to have, when will, for this, using this building, for instance, when will this be paid off?
This building, we're getting to the very end. I think, I'd have to look again, but I think we will have the 2008 bonds will be paid off, I believe, in 2023 or 2024. And then the 2007 and 2009 bonds run a little bit longer, but they were all really about 20-year bonds, so you can kind of figure out when they're going to mature that way.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. There are no other questions. I always have this image of like people bidding at an auction, but the number's going down instead of up. Is that, you know what I mean? Is that kind of how this works?
Yeah, and Mark can address that, but yes, the bids, I watched it this morning online, they submit their bids, and they started out somewhat high, well over 1%, and then as we got closer to the end of the auction, the winning bid was below 1%, but they kept improving their bids.
It's live, so
it's
it
live,
is like a bid.
Right, it's pretty neat to watch,
it's
actually.
like bidding on a car online,
Yeah,
except the other direction.
Exactly.
Good for us. Motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion trustee Papantos, second trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Official communications. Earlier this evening, I'll take up the gauntlet on the chickens. I agree. You can chime in, crow in, as you wish. I actually agree with the resident who brought up the issues. None of you are surprised by that. I'm the one who asked for it to be looked into. I did not forget about it. In fact, Trustee Kruger was in the village president's office one evening and the issue came up and I realized I should probably not bring it up again. With just Trustee Kruger there, I didn't feel safe, scary.
Wow.
Well, not too scary.
Twice tonight I feel powerful. Thank you.
It's strangely, this is an issue that people feel very strongly about. Because from my perspective, it's very much like yours. They're quiet. What do? They eat bugs. But I would like to poll the board. Is there anybody interested in moving forward with some serious inquiry about, you mentioned some other villages that have these. I know Trustee Svandilis, I just demoted you. I know Manager Svandilis has other information on this. Is there, aside from myself, I will poll the board to see about the interest in the chickens. Trustee Rufato?
No.
Trustee Kruger?
Still no.
Okay. Trustee Lang?
Yes, I'm still a no. No.
Thank you.
I'm a no.
Did Lang say yes or no?
I said no.
Yes, he's still a no.
contradicted
Both,
myself.
actually.
Lang is a no.
Okay.
You just went the long way around.
Yes.
to get
Okay.
there. Trustee Vito?
Weren't we looking into this? I thought we already had this poll.
We have, yeah, but I like it.
But what
so.
happened? Did we vote it down before?
Yeah, people, there's just this apprehension about chickens. I don't get it.
I like chicken.
Are you a yes or no?
What's that?
Are you a yes or no?
Yes.
Trustee
yes.
Papantos?
No.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
I like them too, but apparently we're the minority.
All right.
That's
Okay.
a no. Get more of your friends to come and email.
Let's go.
I'm on your side. Thank you for waiting all through the meeting. Any other official communications? Trustee Lang?
Yes. Manager Svandilis, can you remind everybody why there is construction equipment on South Milwaukee, the land that we own on South Milwaukee?
Yes.
I've been getting a lot of inquiries about it, and so I thought if you could explain it to them. Thank you.
Sure, certainly. That is not a construction site. It is a staging area for IDOT and the Wolf Road project. The state needed an area that was clean and accessible and nearby that left very few opportunities. And I should say they needed this area because their other option was nearly smack in the middle of a residential neighborhood. And so we have an agreement with the state that they will restore the site back to its condition before they began, and it is just a staging area. There's no construction, nothing is happening there. It's just a staging area for the state while they complete the Wolf Road project.
Thank you. And one more. I do agree with Mr. Zimmerman about cleanup and so on. I would love to say there's an ordinance out there for people to take care of their homes and throw out their garbage and so on. But I think a long time ago we tried something like that, and for every person who says everyone needs to clean up their homes and so on, there's 2 other people that are saying, don't tell me what to do with my property. And so that's unfortunate because we got big pushback last time we asked that particular question. I do, however, believe in what he said, see something, say something. If there is garbage around, if there is something around, there are plenty of our vehicles and our employees that are driving these streets every single day. And, you know, I think they should make a concerted effort to, if you see something, pick it up, throw it in the back of your truck, in the trunk of your car, wherever you can. I do agree with that, and I believe that we should be doing a better job with that.
I hear and I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. There's a couple more before you.
Yeah, and
There's a couple more before you.
okay,
Trustee Papp, Trustee Vogel, and then Trustee Rufato.
fine.
Try to be orderly.
Thank you.
Trustee Rufato.
First of all, I just want to say how proud I am to live in the village of Wheeling. We saw tonight, we honored a police officer who, it wasn't just happened to be in the right place at the right time. That's part of her job, protecting that particular area. She knew the kid. You know, she played pickup games with him. She did her best. Our fire department was there before you knew it, saving probably more trailers that would have gone down than just the 2 on each side. Human Services got those families a place to live, to take care of them, and to make sure that they were safe. Community Development and Public Works, the cleanup, get things done. You know, Michael, I'm sure Finance had some role in all this, as well as Economic Development. People forget what it means to be a resident of a small, close-knit community. And I think we just saw tonight what it really means. It's a shame we couldn't really celebrate her as much as we would have wanted to. You know, there was no cake, there was, you know, not the normal celebration, but I am grateful that I live here, and I just want to say thank you. To echo Trustee Lang, Mr. Zimmerman is right, there are things. I do wish the public realizes that our staff can't just wander into backyards. They're not getting out of their cars and going to the back of people's homes to see it. 459 code works. Please call. If you hear something, if you see something, call 459 code. Somebody will then investigate. I'm not saying that they shouldn't look when they're on the street and bring it up, and I think they do, but I know when I'm driving, I'm kind of paying attention to the road, so not looking all over the place, but that does happen. And as far as Ms. Wilson goes, I really am not sure that there was $15 million from the county to build on floodplain floodway. Would be pretty sad if there was, and certainly not for what she implied that it was. I do not know where she gets her information from. think she makes it up, to tell you the truth, but that's just my opinion. So, but I know there was not $15 million that the village refused to take. That just does not happen.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Vogel, then Trustee Rufato.
And make it short, but echo what a few other people said as far as the village goes. Is there something we can do? He mentioned 6th Street, a particular residence, and Manager Stanvilas knows what I'm talking about. Is there anything we can do to quickly rectify a situation like that, or is the only thing we can do is go through the courts? Is there, I mean, when it becomes a health hazard, don't we have a right and possibly even a duty to do something?
Yes, and I'll let Attorney Frollo answer in more detail, but regarding the specific address you mentioned, we can speak offline, and I can give you more information.
Without getting into the details of a specific property, individuals have property rights, and then we have to put that next to our right to keep the public safe, health and safety. We have police powers we can exercise. So there are certain situations where we have emergency powers where we can act quickly and then get to court as fast as possible. We try to be real careful when we exercise those because you don't want to step into a lawsuit. So, we have to evaluate every situation as they come. Public health and safety is something I think the staff is always looking at. And if there are exigent circumstances that require immediate action, we'll take those actions to limit the danger that we're faced with. You have to be very careful to focus on the danger, and you have to have very strong evidence of that because you're going to have to go to court the next day probably. So again, I can't give you a blanket yes. We can always go in and do something without court action. But what we can do, Trustee Vogel, and we've done a lot, is get to court right away on an emergency basis, on a temporary restraining order. We can get a temporary restraining order up in court tomorrow if we have to.
How can we do that if we can't go in a person's backyard? I mean, that's where a lot of the complaints are. Aren't our hands tied?
You can't go in someone's backyard because, you want to go searching for problems. If you have evidence that's been presented to you, if someone calls the code enforcement number and tells our people, I've seen the following, right? And we go out there and we talk to the person, we can get to court right away for what's called an administrative search warrant. We can go to court the next day. We can get an emergency administrative search warrant. So we have to respect property rights at the same time, be cognizant of public health and safety. So if there's evidence of a problem, we should know about it, and then we'll evaluate what we can do right away. If there are animals that are in danger, we can probably act pretty quickly without going to court to solve that problem, the animal issue, and then get to court, the next day if need be. If there are people in danger, we should consider reacting quickly. But to the extent we've got some property that's in disrepair and cars in yards that have been in yards for, I heard Mr. Zimmerman say, years and years, where's the emergency? Why can't you go to court? A judge is going to look at us and say, you have time to come to court and get a proper order since this has gone on for years and years. So it just depends. It depends on what we're faced with.
It is. Okay. Yeah, it's just, we're trying to improve the image of the village, and we're, the whole board and staff and everybody does great work with, the new town center and across the street, and now working on the wingspan development down there. And then you drive through some of the neighborhoods, and they just say it flat out, they look like hell. If someone look there's garbage all over the place, car parts, abandoned cars with flat tires, and we just spending a lot of time and effort to clean all that up, and then that happens. It's discouraging for the neighbors that do keep their property in good order. So, all right, we just have to keep plugging away and keep trying. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Trustee Rufato, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. These plastic things, I sometimes have a hard time hearing you, so I'm trying to read your lips, that's why. No, but, so we were talking about code, 459 code, and Trustee Papantos mentioned it. And So we got the newsletter this week, and I happened to try to go and find that number. It's on the back page, but it just didn't bounce out at me down, so maybe we can make it more prominent there. And then also, I'm looking at our village website. It's not one of the quick links to go to, that you have to go into the website to find that. So perhaps making it there more prominent, perhaps people would use it more often, or when they see the newsletter, that they know it's there. Because I agree, I think that should be someone's first step, is to call that number, and then continue to call if they don't see any action. On top of, if you see it, call somebody. That's all I had. Thank you, President Harker.
Thank you, Trustee Rufato. You have before you, in some format or another, the bills for July 16th through August 12th, 2020. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second, Trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Harker?
Yes. Now, we do have an executive session this evening for the purposes of review of the minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, pending probable and/or imminent litigation for the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, and the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee or employees of the village. Now, our new format is not to come back here, right? So the motion has to be to recess to executive session.
A motion to recess into executive session for the reasons stated.
Yes.
And to adjourn the regular meeting directly from the executive session. That's the motion.
Anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Trustee
Second.
Papantos, second by who?
Trustee Vogel.
Trustee Vogel. Clerks, this is an all in favor, right?
No, a roll call with the executive session.
Complicated.
Roll call.
You got really excited there. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Harker?
Yes. Recess. Yeah, we got some stuff done tonight.